Once again, it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome, everyone, to episode 72 of Toss, the Tristain Sports Show. It is your main man, your friendly neighborhood T-Square, Tristain Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us. This week, we got to get to a little bit of Bucks basketball. I feel there's some guys not getting their due in certain areas, but that's okay because that's not what's most important. We'll check in with the Milwaukee Brewers as spring training begins to ramp up. What am I looking for? Green Bay Packers, kind of in the news, kind of not. We'll discuss. And then the tall sweep, we have to talk about some pure dumbassery and ego. You're going to want to stick around for that. But you all know how we get things started here on Toss. We get things started with the state of the state. And let's jump in to a little bit of Milwaukee Bucks basketball. Milwaukee seems to be in a good place right now, having won 5 straight ball games. That's after losing 5 straight. Bucks Twitter is in a frenzy and disarray, on absolute fire. They want to fire Mike Budenholzer. They want to overturn the entire roster and shut the championship window closed. It's over. They've now reeled off 5 straight. Defense still needs to be worked on. But you have a little bit of hope. Drew Holiday comes back from what we all suspected was COVID-19, and he did confirm as much as he came back for his first game action on Sunday, which was a huge victory over the LA Clippers. Huge victory. Giannis coming up big again. Another 35-point game. Having won 5 straight, 21-13. That's coming into Tuesday night's action where they'll be facing the Denver Nuggets, which has not been a very good matchup for them as of late, especially at Fiserv. We'll see how they do there. But they kind of continue their up and down nature. Now, this entire season is just going to be weird in the NBA. The Jazz are the best team in the entire league right now. And they had a very difficult loss. Tough loss to the Pelicans on Monday night. Close loss, tough loss. The shot selection at the end of that game was just absolutely atrocious. But they pulled themselves back into that game and gave themselves a chance to win it. Just late game execution caused them to lose it. But I digress. We're talking about the Milwaukee Bucks, not the Utah Jazz. But that just goes to show you how weird the season is. As I said last week on episode 71 of Toss, when we took a little bit more of a deep dive into the Milwaukee Bucks, I said it's not automatic dominance anymore. A lot of different parts that you have to still piece together. A lot of different parts still have to gel. Mike Budenholzer is trying different things with the rotations, with offense, with defense, even though he still employs that damn drop defense, which just frustrates me. But this entire season is weird. The shortest offseason. You had 0 preseason games. You had a short training camp. You had the shortest the shortest draft and free agency period ever. It's still really going to take time for these teams to gel. It's just going to be a really, really weird season. But despite all that, the Bucks are still 21-13, third in the Eastern Conference, about a game and a half behind the 76ers. Not that far behind the Nets, who have just been absolutely white hot. Despite all of the challenges, you have some guys on this team that are playing very well, and you should be excited because they can still get better. But they're not getting their due. And this was a big topic in Bucks Twitter. When the All-Star participants came out not last season, but a couple weeks ago. Middleton not a part of it. Chris Middleton was not selected in All-Star, not voted in All-Star. Despite being on pace for a 50, 40, 90 season. shooting 50% from the field, 40% from three, 90% from the line. Barely missed that last season. Despite scoring over 20 a game, despite being a guy who's doing 25-5, and that being a short list, which includes LeBron James on it, he was not voted an all-star. Still getting disrespected. Giannis had a little bit of a slow start this season. I think we all noticed that. He was putrid from the free throw line. He seemed to rectify that now. Was not shooting the basketball the best. Still trying to find his way through his new teammates and the adjustments that Budenholzer has made. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. Budenholzer has made some adjustments on offense. Got out to a slow start. But you have to remember all of those factors that came into it as well. But yet, Giannis is a guy with no excuses. He got off to a slow start, but now he's rectified that. First Buck since Kareem with at least 4 games straight of at least 35 points. He's averaging 29 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists. And yet you do not hear his name in the MVP conversation. You hear about voter fatigue. Oh, he's won the last 2 MVPs. They're tired of voting for him for MVP, even though he may be the best player in the league. You hear about the team's record is not as good, even though they're still 3rd in Eastern Conference. Yeah, they're not blowing teams out by 40, but they're not losing to teams by 40 either. Not consistently. I said on my Twitter at the 20 double that it's not voter fatigue. And it's not the Bucks record, because they're still a very good team. Giannis is not in that conversation for one reason and one reason only. Last season's playoff exit in the Eastern Conference semifinals in 5 games to the Miami Heat. Yes, they are holding a postseason exit against him for a regular season award. How is he MVP? He can't even get his team to the finals. It's stupid. And I don't like to use that word, but that's exactly what it is. It's stupid. We knew they were searching for any reason. I'm talking to some media members who have votes. Any reason at all to not give Giannis an MVP. You heard Ramona Shelburne last season. I went with the narrative-based vote because LeBron and dealing with the Kobe tragedy and the fact that he's 35 and look what he's doing. Fast forward to this season, what exactly are the Lakers doing? They lost Anthony Davis, and they forgot how to win. LeBron's been healthy the entire time and playing, and he's been playing well. But it hasn't amounted to a lot of wins. I said last season, LeBron is playing especially well. But Anthony Davis is the MVP. And I didn't mean the MVP over Giannis. Giannis was clear-cut the best player in the league last season, last couple of seasons. You can make that argument for this season as well, but he's not in that conversation. But last season, you look at everything that Anthony Davis was doing, he should have been in that MVP conversation. He was in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. That also went to Giannis. Both of them difference makers on that end of the floor. Some people were making the argument and being looked at crazy that Anthony Davis was more vital to what the Lakers were doing than was LeBron. Now, I'm not saying this to diminish LeBron. I love LeBron. It is an absolute pleasure and an honor to be able to watch him do what he does. He is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. But when you look at what they do on the team and who that really runs through, who is the vital piece, it's Anthony Davis when you have those two on the court. I mean, he is vital to everything they do, vital to what they do offensively, vital to what they do defensively. The Lakers have struggled without him. That's even with LeBron James. But again, I digress because we're talking about the Milwaukee Bucks. So let's get back to it. Bobby Portis, he could be in the conversation for Sixth Man of the Year. 11-7 off the bench. Give you some really good defense. And I feel like his defense has improved. From where he was in Chicago, I feel like his defense is really where he was with New York. I feel like his defense has really improved. But he's giving the Bucks a good punch off the bench. Scoring and rebounding and defense, giving this team exactly what they need in that second unit. Now, I think Jordan Clarkson is going to lock that award up. I think he already has that award locked up. He's coming off the bench scorching hot. But you could put Portis in that conversation. I don't think it would be out of the realm of possibility. He's doing a lot of good things for the Bucks off the bench. But with all that being said, these awards don't matter. Would I love to see Giannis win a third straight MVP? Absolutely. That would be wonderful to see because I think he's playing at that level yet again this season. But that's ultimately not what you play for. It's not what Giannis plays for. Wants a championship. Would I love to see Chris Middleton continue to get his respect, his due, and being voted in as an all-star, being selected as an all-star? Absolutely, I would. I think he deserves it. But ultimately, it's not important. That's not what you play for. So let me be clear. None of those awards matter. What matters is getting better in the playoffs. That is ultimately what this team is going to be judged by. Another failure in the playoffs, and you're going to have a world of questions, and you may very well be missing some people. So keep perspective on what is important. The awards, they're great. Feather in a cap, something to add to your legacy, that's all good. But a championship, that solidifies it. That's a different level. That's special air. And that should be the only focus for the Milwaukee Bucks. And I know it is, but I'm just speaking to general fans out there who, oh, man, Bucks Twitter, oh, he should be in the conversation, and they're being disrespected. Yeah, we get it, but what would you rather have? Because this has been the case the last couple of seasons. Giannis win MVP. Giannis win Defensive Player of the Year. Middleton make the All-Star game. Or would you rather them make the NBA Finals and win the NBA Finals and win an NBA championship? I know what I'm choosing, and it's not even close. Keep perspective on what's the most important. Getting better as a team, winning in the playoffs. Because ultimately, that is the only thing that matters. Continuing here on Toss, State of the State. Let's check in quick with the Milwaukee Brewers. Spring training has started. Spring training games have begun. As we record this program, the Brewers are 2-0. Hitting the long ball. But again, it's spring training, so you can't get too excited about that. What am I watching? Pitching, not so much. I think pitching will once again be a strength on this team. You got that two-headed monster at the top of the rotation, Brandon Woodruff, Corbin Burns. The initial out-getters, as Craig Counsell likes to call them. Set yourself up for success. So I'm not really worried about the pitching. I think they'll have a good rotation. And if the rotation ends up stinking up the joint, then he's just going to go and play the game that he normally does, which is you don't do it by the bullpen. And I think they'll have a pretty strong bullpen. But what I'm watching, and I've mentioned it before here on Toss, go back, listen to the episodes. Multiple times I've mentioned this. It's the offense. It's the offense, and it's third base, and it's first base. Now, first base, you'll get good offense from. First base, you hope to get good defense from because they moved Keston here over there. I know David Stearns has confidence in Keston here from his move from second to first after signing Colton Wong, who's going to be at second. And you go back and you re-sign Travis Shaw, his second stint with the Brewers, to fill the void at third base. Now, I don't think he's going to be strictly over there by himself. I don't think that he's going to be the everyday third baseman. I think he'll get a bulk of the time over there, but I think it might be a little bit of a platoon situation. And the thing is, you have to hope that he finds that stroke that he had before his last season in his first stint with Milwaukee. You can't be hitting below the Mendoza line. You can't be hitting under 200 and be unproductive. He's got to connect, put the ball in play more times than not. We know he's got pop. He's the mayor of Ding Dong City. We know the pop he's got in that bat. He's had a 30 home run season with the Brewers before. He can be a run producer. But it makes me a bit nervous because you look at that last season, it's like, ooh, in his first stint, it's like, ooh, I mean, I know he's an experienced third baseman, and you need that over there because you got a hole to fill over there. But are we really doing this? And yeah, they're really doing it. You hope he's still adept with the glove over there, and I think he is. I don't think he's a defensive liability over there. It is his position by trade. It's just that bat that I'm worried about. Over at first, with Keston here, I'm not worried about the bat over there. It's exactly the opposite. I'm not worried about Keston here's bat. Kid can hit. Kid's got some pop in that bat. He can run, produce. Steal a couple bases for you. The kid's good. My worry is he is not a first baseman by trade. He is a second baseman. And you're switching him over to first, and it's not like he got an entire offseason of work. It's not like the playoffs ended and it said, hey, we're going to make some changes. We're going to move you over to first. What do you feel about that? Can you start getting some training in for that? He doesn't have an entire offseason to prepare to move over to first. And I know the organization and Craig Counsell and everyone else has the confidence that he can do it. Keston himself has said he has the confidence that he can make that transition. It just makes you nervous. You can't be a defensive liability. Because if this offense ends up being as paltry as it was last season, when I said multiple times in this show, you cannot come back in 2021 with the same offense you strolled out onto the field in 2020, you can't do it, cannot do it, then you're going to need every bit of pitching and defense that you can get. You're going to have to win games close. You're going to have to win them ugly. It's going to be a lot of 3-2 games, a lot of 4-1 games, a lot of 2-1 games, maybe some 1-0 games. You're not going to be blowing too many teams out. It's going to be close and ugly. But that's just what I'm watching with the Milwaukee Brewers. That offense, third base, first base. Are you going to get offense from that third baseman spot? Are you going to get good enough defense from the first base spot? And amongst all this, where does Ryan Braun fit into this? Is he ever going to come back? Is he going to take the first half of the season off and then come back and be that hired gun for the second part of the season, the second half? He's still up in the air. But we have to talk about who's there. And that's what I'm looking at. Third base, first base, and the offense. We're going to continue to keep an eye on that as spring training continues. Season is not that far away from beginning. I can't believe we're in March already. March Madness is going to start sooner rather than later, believe it or not. We'll check in with the Golden Eagles and the Badgers next week, see what they're up to. But moving on here on State of the State here on Toss, let's talk Green Bay Packers. I mentioned in our opening that they were kind of in the news, but kind of not. J.J. Watt, who was said to have been deciding between teams like Buffalo, like Cleveland, and Green Bay's name also popped up. Had a lot of Packers fans and Packer media talking about or dreaming about J.J. Watt being in green and gold. You know, the home state kid. You know, he's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Went to school at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He a Badger. Come on home, JJ. But what did I tell y'all on episode 70 of Toss? What did I tell y'all? I said the Packers have no money. They're broke. You need to have money before you can even have a conversation. JJ understood this. He looked at it. Ends up signing with the team that nobody had on their radar, with the Arizona Cardinals. 2 years, $31 million, $23 million guaranteed. Now, it's been reported that other teams had offered him more money. Another team, the Tennessee Titans, had offered him a similar contract to what he took with Arizona. But other teams were said to have offered him more money. But if you look at that contract, 2 years, $31 million, $23 million guaranteed, there was no way Green Bay was going to be able to do that, even if they were under the cap, which they are not. They still have a lot of cap work to do to even get under the cap, because remember, you have an NFL draft coming up. Remember, you have free agents of your own you need to figure out how to resign. Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams and Corey Linsley's already doing interviews on NFL radio saying that it looks like he's going to be snapping the ball elsewhere. So you may end up losing one of the best centers, if not the best center, in all of football. Packers have their own work to do on their own free agents, but they also have to continue to get under the cap, which means they got to cut more guys, which means they have to restructure other guys. Now I know what you're thinking, but Tristan, what about the franchise tag? Let's talk about the franchise tag for a minute. This organization does not like to use the franchise tag. Now, Brian Gutekunst spoke on that just earlier today, where he said they don't avoid intentionally the franchise tag. He just feels that there's other tools to be able to keep your players. Now, the question was brought up on whether or not he would consider using the franchise tag on Aaron Jones. Valid question. Aaron Jones is a dynamic back. He can run it. He can catch it. He's improved in his blocking. He is dynamic. He has played himself into a big money contract. Goot ultimately said that decision has not been made yet. They don't even know if they can use the franchise tag on Aaron Jones. They don't know if they can use the franchise tag at all, or if they're going to at all. That goes to show you the kind of uncertainty with money in the Green Bay Packers organization. Like I said, they're broke right now. They're over the cap. They have no money to field a team. You got your own free agents to try to re-sign. You have a draft class that you're going to have to sign. You got practice squad that you got to sign. There is a lot to do with no money currently to do it. And yet somehow, some way, people got this pipe dream that J.J. Watt was somehow going to be coming home to his home state team, the Green Bay Packers. I, for one, never thought that was going to be a possibility. You can say the Green Bay's on your list, but look at the monetary situation. Is Green Bay primed to win a championship? Yes. Yes, they are. But they don't have the money. And it doesn't matter how primed a team is. Ultimately, this is a business. Guys are in there to get their coins. Like, yes, some guys are in there. They're competitors. They want to win championships. But it's also their profession. They want to be paid their worth. Just like anybody else wants to be paid their worth. They put in that hard work. They want to get paid their worth. He felt that he was worth more than what the Packers could offer, which was nothing. So we'll continue to keep our eye on this cap situation because it is, as I said a couple weeks ago, a dire cap situation that needs to be solved. Because if you don't solve it, there's just a world of hurt coming your way. You're going to have to cut a lot of guys, and you're not going to be able to re-sign certain guys, and that's going to transform your team into something unnoticeable and unpredictable. But that's the state of the state. Some guys on the Bucks are not getting their due for certain positions and awards, but that's not important. Playoffs are important. The Brewers, I'm looking at third base and first base. The offense and the defense you get out of each of those positions, as well as the offense as a whole, because I don't want to see that putrid offense on the field again. And the Packers missed out on J.J. Watt, not like they ever had a chance to, because they're broke. They still have a lot of cap work to do. It's time to run the toss sweep. The toss sweep brought to you by the good folks at tossnationmedia.com. Toss Nation Media, your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. Y'all, there has been some straight up dumbassery, and you could call it dumbassery and dumbassery. It was dumbassery and ego clout chasing that we got to discuss this week on the Tall Sweep, man. It is just wild, these next couple of stories. Let's start with Zoltan Ibrahimovic, the footballer. Most of you might remember him from the LA Galaxy, his short time there, and a guy that really seems kind of full of himself. But you can't deny his football skills. He's a good player. Some might say great player. He's a good player. But I got to say, in the words of Isaiah Thomas, and we talk about the former Celtic, not the Detroit Piston, who still has Michael Jordan living rent-free in his brain. To quote him on some of the things that Ibrahimovic has said, and this is a direct quote from his Twitter, "Shut your ass up." I tend to agree. So he was interviewed, not Isaiah Thomas, Zoltan Ibrahimovic, and the subject of using your platform came up. And these are direct quotes from him. This is what he said first, what just started this whole firestorm, which I also commented on the Toss Facebook page. It's facebook.com/TOnSportsShow. This is what Zoltan said. Quote, "He is phenomenal in what he's doing. But I don't like when people have some kind of status and they do politics. I play football because I'm the best in playing football. That is the first mistake people do when they become famous and they come in a certain status. Stay out of it. Just do what you're best at because it doesn't look good." I can't tell y'all how many problems I had with that whole statement because he mentioned LeBron. And LeBron, in a post-game interview or post-game Zoom conference these days, in the days of this pandemic, he went at length and discussed why he does what he does. And I said it too, again, on the Facebook page, the Toss Facebook page. Like, look, you invoked LeBron James's name, and LeBron James has a whole campaign with Uninterrupted. More than an athlete. I mean, his organization to get out the vote, especially the black vote. His I Promise School in Ohio. This is a guy who has spoken out again for Black Lives Matter, who spoken against voter suppression, who believes in not only just getting kids an education, but getting their parents an education, sending kids to college for free. These things are much more than political. When you're living in this country as a black man, as LeBron James is, you have come across all of these challenges. You've been oppressed. You've been suppressed. But through his grit, his hard work, his determination, he's become one of the best in the world in his profession. But the thing is, just because you become one of the best in the world in your profession does not mean that you do not live a life in which you still have these things thrust upon you. People tend to forget that he had his home vandalized with racial slurs. People forget where this man came from. People forget that this man is still a black man, regardless of how much he may be worth, regardless of his status as one of the best basketball players of all time, regardless of his endorsements. He's still a black man living in this country. And the issues that we deal with, and I'm speaking as a black man in this country as well, cannot be washed off with money. They cannot be washed off with status. They cannot be washed off with being the best in your profession. These are things that we live through. Therefore, we become passionate about them, and we become passionate about changing these things for the better. Because you see, LeBron James is more than an athlete. Renee Montgomery is more than an athlete. Maya Moore is more than an athlete. Bill Russell was more than an athlete. Muhammad Ali was more than an athlete. Because they understand that in this world, with that kind of a platform, you must be more than an athlete. Because that status that it's afforded to you by being an athlete allows you a platform that's big enough to reach far and wide and really affect change. But his dumb ass wants to just be an athlete. Now, look, if that's what you want to be, then that's fine. But don't lump everybody else in with you. And don't sit there and try to act as if just because a person plays basketball or is a boxer or is a baseball player or is a footballer, that is the only thing they know and is the only thing they do best. These are human beings. They have different interests. They study different things. Therefore, they get involved with other things. It may be too big to comprehend for your small little brain, but it's the truth. Now, he heard all this backlash and tried to backpedal, but for me, he just put that little soccer boot further in his mouth. This is another quote from Ibrahimovic. Quote, politics divides the world. Sports unites it. Football unites athletes wherever. We do what we do to unite. This was my message. Athletes should be athletes and politicians should do politics. Look, you're lumping in political issues with human rights issues. And even if you're not, can we talk about the fact that the last person to occupy the Oval Office was a reality show star? Can we talk about a few presidents before that? You had a guy who was an actor. That was the president. And for my money, neither one of them did a great job at all. Can we talk about Tommy Tuberville, who's a Republican senator? He used to be the football coach of Auburn. So you can chill with all that. Oh, politicians need to just do politics and athletes should just be athletes garbage. All I got to say is I am in full agreement with my cousin. I call him my cousin. We got the last name, but he's not really my cousin, so y'all chill out. Isaiah Thomas says, shut your ass up, and that's all I got to say about that. He can shut his ass up. What he said was weak. It was small-minded. Just downright disgusting. Speaking of disgusting, let's turn to something a little bit more lighthearted, even though it gets my blood boiling because this is another passion of mine. Remember when I said people have a lot of different things that they're interested in and they study it and they get good at it and they're within that culture. You know, you guys know on Tossed, and I'm much more than just sports. I talk about a lot of different things. We just spoke about life on the previous part here of the Tall Sweep. But now we're going to talk about another passion of mine, which is sneakers. I am a sneakerhead to the fullest. And if some of you follow me on social media, if you follow my Twitter, if you follow my Instagram at the20double, you know I am a sneakerhead. I love sneakers. I always have, always will. I'll probably be 90 plus years old still kicking in a pair of Jordan 11s. I'm telling you right now. Sneakerhead to the death of me. This story got my blood boiling because There was a day and age where you could go on to the Nike sneakers app. And like I said, I'm deep into the sneaker culture. So I look at the sneaker news, and, I get some news on the side, hey, be on the lookout for this. Be on the lookout for this. I get some previews of some flavors, some colorways of certain kicks. I'm like, ooh, all right, let me circle the calendar when that comes out because those are going to be dope. So there was a day and age where you could go on to sneakers and you could hit the notify me button. And when that Saturday would pop up, because most of the releases happen on a Saturday, you just, boom, press the price button. Boom, purchase. Got them. Your purchase will be on your shipment is on the way, and you will get them a few days later. And that elation that comes along with copping a pair that you circled on your calendar. You went and worked hard for. You really wanted. And now you got them, and now you can rock them. Some people decide to keep them on ice for a little bit. I'm a firm believer in rocking what you cop. There was a joy that came along with it. But that joy got sucked out. Slowly but surely, with the advent of bots, robots that game the system, that basically buy up all the stock, and it's usually a reseller that does it, so they can go and sell it for double and triple the price. Past few years, the Nike sneakers app with big releases, I'm talking like Virgil Abloh's Off-White. Any of his Nike collaborations, especially the Jordan collaborations from the 10 collection, which I do have some of. That's back before things got messed up. Big collaboration on the Nike Dunk. Old school classics that are coming back, remastered in the original form. The big shoes like that. Lately, you've been trying to purchase those, and you put in your size, and you're in a queue, and you're waiting in line, and then all of a sudden you didn't get them. Sold out in like 2 minutes. And it's like there's no way in the hell that these sold out as soon as I opened the app. That's what's been going on, and that's what's frustrated a lot of people. And then you have to go and scramble to find another site, but then by then it's too late. But sneakerheads have known something is up with the sneakers app. Sneakerheads have known that the game is messed up, that people with these bots and something maybe a little bit higher up was going on. Enter the Nike VP of North American operations and the sneakers app itself, Ann Herbert, who stepped down from her position after it was revealed that she had a connection to a big-time reseller. That reseller was her own son. They were both gaming the system. This kid had cook groups, which basically, really gave inside information on when retailers were going to drop the prices on certain products so they can go and buy it up and then sell it for resale again, sometimes double, triple, and quadruple the price. And it's not just shoes, it's apparel. It's discontinued items that maybe some people have been looking for and couldn't get their hands on because maybe they're a different state or whatever the case may be. This kid was buying up the stocks of all the hottest releases. Off-White, the Jordans, any of the hottest shoes, and some of the ones that were considered bricks, which were shoes that really didn't sell out like they thought they would. Buying those, they slashed the price on them, and he's selling it for what normal retail would be, or maybe just a little bit under it. This kid was making 6 figures, y'all. Now, look, you can't knock the hustle, but then you can, because when you have the ultimate plug in your mom, whose credit card this kid was using to buy up all this stock through his bots so he could then go and resell again for double and triple the price. making six figures a month, not just off of the reselling, but also off of his cook groups and his advertising from his Instagram pages. Like, when I say he was making six figures, y'all, I'm not lying. This kid was making six figures, but in order to get the stock on all these things, he was using his mother's credit card. And the thing is, he's doing all this, and he's got all this cash flow coming in, and, you know, the kid's in college, and he's bragging to a Bloomberg journalist about all this. And then Bloomberg goes and publishes the story. Then all of a sudden, oop, mom's been implicated. Mama got to step down. Son ain't got the plug no more. The game is all the way messed up. I still enjoy sneakers. I love sneakers. I just got a fresh pair today that I've been waiting on. And again, I don't pay resale. I don't do it. Because if you pay resale, all you are doing is just adding fuel to the fire of these people to be doing this stuff. I understand you want them, but I subscribe to the model. If I can't get them at retail, I just won't have them because I ain't paying resale. But this whole game is messed up. She literally was in charge of North American operations and the sneakers app itself. You cannot tell me she did not know what this kid was doing. You cannot tell me that she did not have a hand in this. And I'm talking much more than just credit card use. I'm talking in gaming the sneakers app system. I'm talking about gaming the North American operations to help fuel her son's business. And the very fact that her son decided to go and brag on this for clout, he literally bragged on this to a journalist for nothing more than clout. If you've seen some of these pictures with all the stock he has, like, oh, that's why I couldn't get the off-white fives. Oh, that's why I couldn't get those. Oh, look at all these he's got. That's why I can't get those. Because the game is all the way messed up. It's been rigged. But the very fact that he bragged on this for clout, I could tell he'd never watched the movie American Gangster. Because if he had, he would have learned from that movie. He would have learned that Frank Lucas liked to keep things low key, so he didn't bring any attention to himself until his wife bought him that chinchilla coat and that chinchilla hat, and they went to the fights. And that's when the FBI spotted him, and he ended up on their radar, and that began his downfall. He flashed his wealth. This kid bragged on his operations, on his system, on the very fact that his mama was the plug, and what he was doing and how he was gaming the system and how the system was being gamed for him. And not only did he fumble his own bag, he fumbled his mama's bag too. Clout chasing is for clowns. That's all I'm going to say. Well, y'all, that'll do it for me. It's episode 72 of Toss Tristain on Sports Show. Y'all know where to find me on social media at the20double on Instagram and Twitter. Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. It's a Toss Facebook page. We touch on a lot of things there that we don't get a chance to touch on the show. And TossNationMedia.com, your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. But, as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This is T-Square, Tristan Thomas, reminding all of you to keep it moving forward. Always forward. Forward always. Until next week, so long from Toss.